Hey everybody, it's Kelly. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Therapist. It came to my attention recently that even though I've done some videos on gaslighting, and even though gaslighting is a pervasive term in our society today, a startlingly small number of people are either using it in the right way or even actually know what it means. So this video today is an attempt to explain it and to give you some examples of it so that you know when to be calling that out. Before we go any further, I would really love it if you would consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment to talk about how this has played out in your life, and make sure that you like the video. Click the bell so you get notifications for when I post different things, and I would love to see you active in this little community that we are building. Gaslighting is generally defined as the intentional misleading of someone so that they question their understanding or knowledge of a certain topic or conviction. So what does that mean? It all came from a movie from way long ago, which are my favorite kind of movies, to be 100% honest. I do encourage you to go watch it. It's very interesting. But it's about a man whose wife knew him to be a murderer, and he was trying to convince her that she was crazy so that he didn't get in trouble for murdering people. He would play with the lights, and then she'd be like, "Do you see that in the lights?" And he'd be like,
"I don't know what you're talking about. Everything's fine."
Or he would convince her that she didn't see the things that she saw or didn't think the things that she thought, so that she would start to question her own sanity and her own reality that she had and leave his alone. Pretty twisted. Also, y'all, we do it all the time to people. The previous video that I have is about gaslighting in the church and the things that the church will use phrase-wise and topic-wise to make people question who they are. Just to review, one of the biggest ones is makes people question their reliance on self, because the entirety of the lesson is you cannot believe yourself, you cannot believe your experiences, and if you do, you are not a good enough follower. I've had that said to me. Those of you out there who also had similar religious trauma go down in your life, you've had that said to you. That is gaslighting. The purpose of gaslighting someone else is for control. You want to control someone else and to determine what they think, feel, or see, or do. And in order to do that, you have to convince them you are right. So there's a power play involved. You need to be the powerful one in order to be able to gaslight somebody. And it doesn't necessarily mean like the powerful, like the powerful. But sometimes it actually just means powerful, like you have the ability to influence someone else. And so gaslighting can be done by a seemingly weaker member of a discussion, but if they are powerful in the way that they can tilt people's understanding and awareness of things, that still makes them powerful. So why do people gaslight? The arenas that I currently see the most gaslighting in is still political and religious. It happens in relationships and in families. We'll talk about that one in a minute, but let's just talk about things like political arguments and religion. The idea of gaslighting someone in a political argument is one of the oldest methods of trying to convince someone else that they're wrong. You find one particular thing that is maybe not 100% accurate, or just the little tiny little hole you can find in someone's argument that doesn't sit well with yours, or you find a loophole where their argument doesn't work, even if it's a very extreme example, so that their argument is now null and void because you have put a hole in it. And in doing that, you both feel powerful and you feel like you win the argument. If you've ever had someone do this to you, you know how frustrating it is, because the problem here when someone does that is that even though they might find a straw man argument for something that they think sends your whole reasoning up in smoke, that doesn't actually mean that your reasoning isn't accurate. It doesn't mean that your experience is not important, but they treat it as such, and that can be very demoralizing. So gaslighting not only puts someone way up in power, but it also is meant to push somebody else down. Let's be real, when it comes to power, it's not really how high up you are or how low you are. It's the amount of distance between the two people that determines how much power is actually in that relationship, right? All right, so let's talk gaslighting in relationships. Gaslighting actually can be something as small as one person in a relationship telling the other, "Oh, yeah, I totally told you about that thing that you forgot about," even though they know they didn't, because they know the other person is forgetful, so they know they'll get away with it. That's actually gaslighting also. It's just slightly less nefarious than the other things we're talking about. Other ways that it shows up in relationships is things like one party getting upset about something and the other party saying,
"Oh, why are you so sensitive?"
Don't take everything so personally.
Typically, when someone is doing that type of gaslighting, they are minimizing the emotions of the person they're talking to, and they are also trying to minimize the guilt or negative feelings they feel about their own actions or words and trying to make it the other person's problem. That's the other part of gaslighting, is when we say something that is a bigger problem or even our problem is someone else's problem. I did a TikTok video about this a couple months ago. In that video, I specifically talked about the kind of gaslighting that was happening in political statements, but between people with relationships with one another. So in other words, if one person feels very strongly about something, like, I don't know, let's say queer equality, and someone else is intentionally voting for someone who is anti-queer equality, something that person might say is,
well, that's not the only issue around.
Or,
"Why can't you just make your life less political?"
Or,
"Why are you letting politics come in between us?"
In reality, that other person is intentionally making decisions to promote and support somebody who is fundamentally against that other person's actual rights as a human being. Because only two things can be happening there. Either they don't care that they are voting against or speaking against the rights of another person as a human being, or they do not believe that person deserves rights as a human being. Those are the only two options. Anyone who says there are more options than that are lying to themselves or lying to you, or maybe gaslighting you. The problematic thing when it comes to fighting a gaslighting situation is that the person who is doing the lighting does not have any interest in admitting they're wrong. So there is genuinely nothing that you will be able to do in that interaction itself to fix it or to change it. When person A has made a decision to use arguments that make person B's experience less legitimate in order to feel comfortable with the things that person A is doing, there is nothing person B is going to be able to do in that moment to make them see what's happening. Get out of that situation. Get out of that conversation. If it is somebody that you are close with and want to maintain a relationship with, you go and talk to them again about it at a time that is less heated and maybe with a third party, because it's very possible that they're going to be so steeped in their denial and their need to be right and to not feel bad about it that they're unlikely to hear some of the things you have to say. When you find yourself in a situation where someone you care about is using gaslighting or straw man arguments or any of those things that are honestly ethically questionable at best in order to maintain their point in an argument, you do need to ask yourself the question of whether or not you benefit from keeping that relationship the way that it is. Do you need to put some distance there? Do you need to cut it off completely? Do you need to have a conversation with them in hopes that they will see your point of view? Not see your side, not agree with you, but see your point of view. Common phrases in gaslighting are things like,
Don't be so sensitive.
"It's just a joke."
I don't mean it the way you're taking it.
"I'm sorry you take it that way."
these are all phrases that are steeped in gaslighting. Don't be so sensitive. What that means is the person that is saying it feels something about your sensitivity to the subject. If they didn't, why would they care that you're being sensitive? It's just a joke. This one drives me crazy. It is not a sign of weakness to admit that you've made a joke that is inappropriate or a joke that doesn't land well. You can turn it around and be self-deprecating and be like, oh, I should have read the room better if you tell a joke that doesn't land well with someone. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. That shouldn't be hard to say. For some reason, we've decided that I'm sorry is weakness, and so we don't want to say it. But if you've made a joke and someone is upset about the joke you made, or they're trying to get you to think and, I don't know, realize that kind of humor is not appropriate, instead of digging in and saying, oh, I've always joked about this, people are too sensitive these days, instead of digging in and insisting that you're right, it would always behoove us as people to listen to what someone is trying to say. Just because I think something is funny does not mean everybody else does. And there is nothing that I say or do that is worth putting someone in a hurtful situation over. It takes nothing from me to say, don't tell that joke anymore, that's not appropriate now. Y'all, I got jokes for days. If you have a problem not telling some of your jokes because it's not appropriate anymore, maybe you need to learn some more jokes. I didn't mean it the way you're taking it. Well, this one takes all the ownership off of the speaker, doesn't it? You're taking something the wrong way. And so I can't do anything about that because that's not how I said it. That's not what I meant. So what? If you're the one communicating information to someone, you do have some responsibility on how it lands. You can't make someone hear you. That's true. But you absolutely can reiterate something. If someone has taken something the wrong way and you actually care about the person who's taking it the wrong way, why not try again? Why not attempt to explain yourself better? And then, of course, there's the lovely, well, I'm sorry you're taking it that way. An apology that's not really an apology is bull, and it's a waste of everyone's time. You can say to someone, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt, and not apologize for what you've done that hurt someone's feelings. For instance, if I've made plans with someone and something happens with my wife and I need to go and tend to whatever that situation is, and then the person who I had plans with is upset. I can be sorry that they're upset. I would be authentically sorry that they are upset. I would not be sorry about my decision because I made the decision that was best for me, right? That is authentically attending to someone's feelings, yet also standing by your decision because it was the best one that you could make with what you had available to you. When people do that, then that is an actual apology. But more often than not, I see people who are like, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way is a way to brush off someone else and again, brush off the ownership that you have to have in a situation. All you're trying to do is not have to pay the consequences for your own bad behavior. That's what you're doing. Stop doing that. Much like in the movie I referenced in the very beginning of this video, gaslighting is an attempt to escape personal consequences, whether it's logical, emotional, or actual consequences, like a man who's murdering people and tries to get his wife to not turn him in. It's avoidance of consequences. When you spot someone gaslighting you or someone else, understand that a logical response and argument with them in the moment is unlikely to yield actual results. It might make you feel better. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying I've never done it, but understand that it is unlikely to yield lasting results in someone's opinion of things. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for being here. We have a couple really cool things coming up. Definitely check out the community tab on the YouTube channel because we have some polls and some questions and just some ways to interact together now that that tab is open. So I hope you have a great week. I will see you again next week. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.